right, so it says it's about to go live, so we'll see how this works. So let's cross our fingers.
Great. Is it a whole new world, right?
It's everyone's Zooming. I mean, everyone's Zooming right now, and you can't get around it. You're looking forward almost to the day when we don't have to Zoom. At this point, you see so many Zoom, everyone's virtual. Okay, we're definitely live now. We're definitely live, so I see we're live. I'm going to make sure that that's up and running and make sure people know that we don't have to Zoom. Okay, so I'm checking my volume, which is too loud. Okay, we're live. Hey, Heather Fitzenhagen, before we get started, we just want to do a little video. I'm doing a little screen share real fast to introduce people to the TGIM. So let's hold back for about 1 minute while we introduce TGIM Fort Myers Film Festival. Okay, here we go.
Great.
The weekend's gone and it's not the same, 'cause Monday's off, so damn Monday. Wish I had something to do tonight. Well, what once felt wrong now feels so right. Watching indie films on a Monday night with my friends while I intellectualize. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday, yeah. Thank God that it's Monday. Will I love it? Will I hate it? Will I watch it and debate it? Those critics with their movie eyes. Will they make me laugh and they make me cry? Some so bad that I wanna die, but instead I pass the mic and I intellectualize. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday. Thank God that it's Monday, yeah. Thank God that it's Monday.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TGIM, which has turned into a virtual film club of sorts. I'm your host, Eric Raddatz, coming to you live this Monday here for the Fort Myers Film Festival, where we thank God for Mondays. We plan to do this virtually until we can get out of this whole mess. Until then, we want you to know we are here, and we are here with you to talk about films and to talk about what we're seeing live here. We have with us tonight a very special guest, one Miss Heather Fitzenhagen, our representative who has joined us numerous times for our live TGIM at the Sidney and Brenda Davis Arts Center, is passionate about her helping people and has been involved in our community for 20 years, an advocate for clean water, trafficking victims, and anyone who doesn't always have a voice. She's excited to exercise her critiquing our movies tonight. Thank you, Heather. Her service in the Florida House of Representatives ends November, but she hopes to exchange her Tallahassee commute for that of Washington, D.C. as her area's next congresswoman. Heather loves to participate in what is always an interesting and entertaining experience. Please welcome, it's an honor to have you here, Miss Heather Fitzenhagen. Heather, how are you doing?
Doing great, Eric. Thank you so much for having me in this virtual TGIM.
It's a virtual TGIM. Everyone's so virtual these days. You almost kind of wonder if we've lost touch with actual human interaction. I mean, how are you coping with it all? How are you doing?
Well, I'm not coping as well as I'd like because I'm a hugger, and it's very difficult. I see some of them like, oh no, gotta pull it back.
With the elbow.
But, right, but it's just not the same. I think that I've really come to put a higher value on human tactile interaction and just being in the same room. It's very difficult, but I know everyone's going through it right now. So the best we can do is make the best of it and try to handle the new normal.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know who you're quarantining with, and I'm not going to.
I don't believe I said, Eric.
You didn't say, so I'm not going to pry. But I do think it's so hard because you get used to kind of your surroundings, and you get used to a routine, I'm with my wife, and I've got a 6-year-old, and so it's easier for me to say, listen, the quarantine is not too bad because we're hanging out, and
Right.
but I can't imagine being so distanced when you're a hugger. And you must have some that you're easing into, like, and believe me, you do not have to answer any of these questions, but as you're easing into who you're comfortable having over or going to see, do you have a long list of what you feel is acceptable before you will hang out with this person?
I don't. I've just tried to use common sense to be careful. It's not so much necessarily for me, but what if I were to infect someone else? I really wouldn't want that on my conscience. So I typically am only going out really to when I need, or not need, but I want to go and help someone in my capacity as state rep, because I really don't want to go out for a frivolous reason too often, because I just don't want to expose people. I want to let everything open. I've gone out and gotten some great takeout meals. I was there when they opened some restaurants on a limited basis, and I sat outside, and it was all good. But I'm taking every day, for what it's worth, and taking my time.
Cool. Here at TGIM, we traditionally will look at films in consideration for the Fort Myers Film Festival. We've actually already had the films that have been selected for our Fort Myers Film Festival. And as you know, because of we're being safe and conscientious of others, we postponed it. We will have the film festival. We've accepted over 68 films for the Fort Myers Film Festival, and we're very happy to have them in it. So it's a little different tonight. We do have films that we've been talking about with others, but I think where I kind of want to go, if you're comfortable with it, is kind of like, what have you been watching? Because everyone's like, what are you watching right now? Is there something that you're streaming that you can tell us about?
Sure. I mean, I'm not going to be able to have the intellectualism of your folks that are watching these films, but I can tell you, let's see, what did I watch? I watched all of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Okay.
And I thought that was a lot of fun. I've watched some documentaries. To make myself feel better about how we're doing right now, I watched the Great American Dust Bowl.
I'm going to take note of that. Tell me about the Great American Dust Bowl. What is that about?
Well, it's a Ken Burns film.
Okay.
And I thought, well, what are we? We've had to suffer for a couple of months. The Dust Bowl lasted 10 years. Okay. And it was a result of over farming in certain areas in Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas and Colorado, that they over plowed the fields. And so there was nothing on the topsoil to keep it down. And then a drought came. And so the drought, coupled with the fact that the topsoil was all loose and the winds came, and literally families had nothing. I mean, nothing for nearly 10 years. That's where you got the show. You're too young for this, but there was a show once upon a time called The Beverly Hillbillies. And the Beverly Hillbillies,
a man named Bill, poor
Bill
barely kept his family fed, and then
they were Okies. They were Okies, and they moved to California. There was this great migration of people that decided, I give up. I know my farm's never going to make it, and I'm out of here. But so it was tragic to think about 10 years of that.
And speaking of that, I know you pretty well, and I've known you for many years. You've been in attendance at the Fort Myers Film Festival, and I know you personally, and I see your dedication to our community, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for taking the time to engage with a little film conversation. As we look at the future of what you're running for, as we look at the future of our state, and as we look at the future of our nation, we're having difficult times right now. And I know that you have been forthright and forthcoming about a lot of hard work that you're doing to get people involved and to make changes to help people. What do you see as you run? And we can talk a little about this. We can talk about film. We can talk about this. But since you're running, what do we see as significantly something that you want to see changed moving into as as we see the election cycle and as you see yourself taking position?
Sure, I can answer that because it's very easy. At the 40,000 foot level, I think our greatest problem right now, theoretically, is I think that this country is more polarized than it has ever been in my lifetime. And it's the enemy within that I worry about, because we're not coming together even as much as we should when we have an exterior causation for this crisis. It really breaks my heart that, the different people and different parties in the country are at each other's throats night and day. And I'd really like to see us move in a direction of rebuilding together in a much more unified way.
When we look at the biggest challenges that you see in 2020, 2021, 2022, can you speak to, is there an obvious thing that we should all be looking at that you see tackling as the most important?
Well, I think there are a couple of them. One of them, has come up frequently and is a problem that is really coming home to roost right now, which is the deficit. We have a deficit that is, careening out of control. And unfortunately, during the last 5 or so years, when we had tremendous economic growth and a positive economy, we didn't pull back the reins. We did not stop the deficit spending. So now when we have a crisis and we need to do some of these emergency measures to keep the economy afloat and keep people afloat, we're just, it's just ballooning out of control. So we have to think about how are we going forward, going to tackle the deficit, because that sounds like nothing to a lot of people, but at some point, countries are going to stop buying our treasury bonds and treasury bills that are what keeps this country afloat, because they will be concerned that our debt is so heavy we can't pay it back.
Now, I'm not in any way going to pretend like I'm some sort of economist here. I will say that I've read a few things that suggest that what we see in previous years is we don't want a deficit, but at the same time we want to see smaller businesses, bigger businesses, all businesses succeeding. At what level do we see the government as responsible, as not responsible, but in a position to help, as we're seeing the greatest number of unemployed since the Depression? Is that fair to ask? And if so,
well, I'm not sure what you're asking exactly, but I will comment on that thread, which is this: is that I think government's job, generally speaking, is to get out of the way of small business and big business, and let them do what they do. It's not government's job to create the economy. It's to have an environment in which hardworking Americans can be successful. The government's job is to protect the citizenry from war or from some other crisis. We have a crisis right now. So I do think it's valid for the government to step in. It's just unfortunate that the time at which we're stepping in, we're already at the precipice of a terrible deficit spending. So that's what makes it difficult. And I think the fact that we don't have single subject bills so that everybody can dump everything that they want into their bill and hold it hostage makes it difficult to be able to, with precision, give the government stimulus to the right people.
Very good. As you speak a little bit about having this kind of like, so we're not unified. We're dealing with two political parties that seem at ends, but it seems like in a difficult time, we still see some bills have been passed. What do you see? And I also say this because, and I want to get to this a little bit because I know you're a Republican, but at the same time, there's a lot of Democrats who support you. You seem to find support from both parties. As you look at your trajectory into your next political life, I'm not sure that's the best way to put it. How do you see yourself engaging with others' good ideas, no matter what their party? And is that something that will be supported by your party base?
Well, the way I look at it is I try to explain to people I'm a pragmatic Republican. I'm a realist. I have certain Republican principles that I want to stand by, but that doesn't mean that I'm not compassionate, and that I don't look at everything, and examine it. Principles are great, but we don't live in a vacuum. So sometimes you may not be able to always execute on your principles because there's an overarching need for something. Like, for example, as we were just talking, the deficit. I don't like deficit spending, but I'm also not going to tell people right now that we don't need some sort of stimulus to make sure that people don't fall through the cracks. So my job, I believe, is to tell people the straight up story on what's going on and try to understand the other party's point of view and to promote reasonable, pragmatic approaches to problem solving.
And I really love that about you. And as someone who needs to kind of maintain some political neutrality within working with all the, as I put on my Florida Weekly cap, and as I put on my Reddit's Foundation cap, and as I put on City Brigade Star Center cap, it's as a friend, I will say that I really, really admire that about you. And in fact, something that I found most interesting regarding the election cycle, it seems as if a lot of people need to be educated regarding how to vote. And I say this in a way, a lot of people are worried about, are we voting by mail? Are we voting in person? A lot of people don't know about a primary vote that's taking place and a vote that's taking place. Obviously, the vote that's taking place in November we know about. But if some of your constituents who are Democrat, let's just say, are interested in voting for you, they can't unless they switch parties. And how does that work? Because
I'm glad you asked, because I think it's important that we educate voters and they need to understand how things work. Number one, everyone needs to register to vote. It's so important, and you can do it online right now. Anyone can go online and register, and it's very, very simple. So that's number one, register to vote. In Florida, we have closed primaries. So if you are a Republican, you can only vote in the Republican primary. If you are a Democrat, you can only vote in the Democratic primary. If you're an independent, you can vote in neither. So the only time you can vote would be in the general election. So I'm saying to people, if you want to have a voice in your election, you need to make some decisions and decide where you're going to be and where you want to vote in a primary, because otherwise you have no real voice.
And if I could play devil's advocate to that just a little bit, a lot of people are seeing the Republican primaries when this decision will be made. No offense to the Democratic candidate that is running, so walk me through, if a person does want to vote for the Republican primary, what date is that, and what point do they need to register as Republican if they want to switch parties to vote within the Republican primary?
The Republican primary and the Democratic primary are on August 18th. So I'm not sure of this date certainly, but approximately 30 days before a primary election,
July 17th, for example,
you must have decided which party you're going to vote with. So if you want to change parties, that's when you have to do it. If you want to be registered in time to vote, that's when you need to do it. So that is the cutoff date in order to be able to participate in the primary, 30 days out.
So if you're an independent, or if you're a Democrat and someone wants to vote for you, they need to, by the end of July 28th, 30th, we don't know.
No, not even that. It'd have to be like July 17th or something, because it's 30 days. 30
Sorry,
days.
my math. And at that point, they will be able to have a say in the Republican primary, which happens in August.
And I guess, statistically, it's very, our district is very much weighted towards the Republican Party in terms of the number of voters. So typically, the Republican Party has a great advantage here in Southwest Florida, which is wonderful, but it leaves a lot of people out of the process that might, want to participate.
Yep. Regarding hitting the ground and campaigning, it's a totally different world now. You're having to kind of reinvent how you do that. Can you talk us through a little bit how challenging that's been for you to
Sure.
campaign during coronavirus? Because you're
Well, it is challenging, but everyone is facing the same challenges, essentially. I'm doing a lot of Zoom conferences and communicating just like we are tonight. And I welcome anybody or any group that would like me to talk with them on a Zoom conference. I'm happy to do that. And I love the format to be able to have people ask me questions about what's important to them and just cut to the chase. There's no one that I won't talk to. Because I feel very comfortable with my viewpoint.
I really love that about you. I think everyone sees that as you being really open to even difficult questions from all points of view, and the fact that you have an answer, it says a lot about you, and it's certainly refreshing. If I were to post on our website now or on our Facebook page that we're talking, how does one get in touch with you?
Well, I would say the best way to do that, if you're going to post, would have someone just message me on Facebook. And if you want to, look at my points of view, my website is being updated, and I'm going to have a brand new shiny website on Monday, which I'll be unveiling. And I think it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be like nothing any other candidate has. And so I'm super excited about that. But in the meantime, if you want to schedule a Zoom conference, with 10 of your friends, let's do it. I'm happy to do it. Have coffee, whatever you like.
Okay, so I think we got all that out of the way, and I think we know how much we adore you here, and we think I wanted to circle around, as we only have a few minutes left, talk about kind of your top 3 of what you might be interested in watching tonight and why. I know you mentioned a few things here on.
Well, we already touched on the deficit. That's
Yes.
a big one. I think we need to make some serious overhaul there. Because like each one of us, our children, $70,000 worth of debt right now and growing currently. Each of us are saddled with that. If every American. Immigration, we really need to figure out what to do on immigration. We certainly need to secure our borders because people are coming in, terrorists are coming in. We're paying a high price for people who are not coming here legally, but we cannot ignore the fact that we already have millions of people that are here in this country that we have allowed to get educated and go to our hospitals. We must do something with those people. We can't ignore that they are here. That's important. And I think lastly, I would say water is extremely important to me because of our community. Water is essential to the way that we thrive here and our health and well-being and our economy. It's everything.
When we look at how you stand in difference to some of the others who are running, and full disclosure, Randy Henderson is a friend of mine, as are you.
Sure.
It's tough. You guys are both great. How do you stand in difference to some of your opponents for this upcoming election with regards to those 3 things specifically?
Well, I think that I have a distinct point of view. I'm much more water friendly, if you will, and do not support or have not been a supporter of the U.S. sugar policy on how to use our water. That's something that has been the same way for me for the last 8 years. As far as immigration, I believe, as others do, that a strong border is essential. But I'm also, again, a pragmatist, as I said earlier. And if we want to get the illegal immigrants that are in this country right now to be on the record with car insurance and paying into our system and not getting a free ride, we need to find some way to deal with those people. I don't know what that way is, but we cannot ignore that they're here, and we're not going to be able to get them on a bus and send them back to where they came. That's unrealistic.
And knowing you, I will add that you are open to the suggestion of what to do. And listen, I can't imagine being in your shoes. I say this as someone who runs a film festival, but I mean, the fact that we are looking at, how to create solutions for very difficult situations. And I applaud that you are open-minded to open discussions about it. Sometimes people who may have a different point of view than yours, I see you accepting kind of a discussion with them. And I feel deep down as if it's part of you saying, I know that I don't have all the answers and I'm open to them. Am I wrong in assuming that?
Well, I always want to understand the other side's point of view, and I'm certainly not an expert in all things. I'm always open to listening. That doesn't mean at the end of the discussion that I will have changed my perspective, but I think you have to be open and be respectful of people and why they believe what they believe. So that is something that is axiomatic for me, is to be respectful of other people's point of view. I can politely say I appreciate that and I understand, but I still believe my viewpoint because of these reasons. But we don't have to have all this vitriol and hate. And we can try to find more commonalities, because I don't think there's anyone that would tell me, oh yes, I want to give away all this money to illegal aliens because that's going to make my children saddled with more debt. No one's going to say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, Heather. People will say, however, Heather, I don't want to hurt, children coming over, and I don't want to, have problems at the border. Okay, I understand that. I don't want to hurt children either. But we have to take some serious action in order to stop people coming here and knowing that they can get here and have a free ride. It's not okay.
When the film festival plays different films, we find that we like to start the conversation. And just because we play a film, I will say that doesn't mean that we stand by necessarily a political, religious, or social economic point of view. But I think a lot of times what art does is it starts a conversation. And that's one thing that I think that I've seen you receptive to, and I really appreciate, is the fact that these opinions often lead to a discussion which sometimes comes up with creative solutions. Is that too idealistic?
You know what? It can never hurt to open your mind to a new idea. That, again, it doesn't mean that you have to change your mind, but maybe you might learn one little thing or understand someone else's perspective. That, I think, is important.
Where can we see you coming up as we lead? Let's see, it's already May. Oh my gosh, can you believe it's already May?
I know.
June, July, August, September, August. So we have 3 months for the
3 months of very hard work ahead for me.
Where can we follow you, find you?
I've got a Facebook page for Heather Fitzenhagen for Congress. And as I said, on Monday, the brand new, exciting, totally different heatherfitzenhagen.com will be available.
I'm gonna put that under this notes here. All right, so people can find that there. We try to keep this about 30 minutes, and we're closing in on the end of that. What else have I not asked that I should have asked that you can tell me about?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think we've covered the waterfront. We've covered the waterfront. I'm ready to see some film.
Okay. We are looking at doing the Fort Myers Film Festival. As you know, we have to respect safety and guidelines. We were planning in May. So as we look at June, July, August, September, we are hopefully going to be doing a film festival. We'd love to have you.
I hope so too.
I'd love to have you as my guest, have you there. And I look forward to seeing what happens. And we are totally appreciative. I thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. I love being here.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. And I love you, and I appreciate all that you do. Thank you for being part of this. And if there's anything you can let us know that you're doing, we're happy to put word out to you as well. And we hope to have an event here shortly where people can come out and see you at a Fort Myers Film Festival. So thank you so much for being part of this, okay?
You're so welcome. Look forward to it.
All right. Okay, with that, we look forward to see you guys next Monday. Every Monday is a fun Monday at the Fort Myers Film Festival at TGIM, where we're talking about films. It's a film group of sorts, and we're real honored to have Heather Fitzenhagen here with us tonight. Until next week, we wish you well. Stay safe out there. Much love. Thank you, Heather. And we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.